Hello, interwebs, and welcome to the sixth episode of Conspiracy Synergy. I'm your host, T. Snyder, and as always, thank you for tuning in and for taking the time to delve into relevant controversy and real world conspiracy. Not theory. Like, really real, actual reality. With, memes added on top. To make super depressing, horrifying stuff about how corrupt the world really is feel at least somewhat entertaining and not completely soul-crushing to hear about, Because otherwise, oh man, wow, we're in a bad spot right now as a species, people. So, yeah. Anywho, at the end of last episode, we went full cartoon and officially left the grips of the mainstream media's matrix. We are thus now able to zoom out of narrow perceptual lenses that had previously confined us within the margins of societally conditioned assumptions. So now, because we've entered the rabbit hole in a metaphorical illustration of where we're at in our cognitive progression or whatever, venturing out of our previous narrow understanding of the world into a much bigger understanding now that has started to happen, it also means that we're able to look back and reflect on the establishment's tentacles. Because even after you enter the rabbit hole and depart Normieville, you're still in the mental shackles of the establishment's shadow. It turns out things are actually a lot more fucked up and weird than our wildest dreams. And unfortunately, we can't just pretend that the reality is not as complex as it really is, just because it's really uncomfortable to hear about, So, diving into the vast complexity of real-world conspiracy, to do that effectively, we gotta take some time to talk about secret technology and aliens. Okay, first of all, no, actually, this is not going to be a segment on actual aliens or divergent timeline beings or interdimensional what have yous. I'm not talking about that today. Oh, also, I'm not saying that this is definitely going to be what happens or anything. It might, it could. We'll see. I don't know how this real-life disaster movie is going to play out. All I know is that the agenda is spelled out crystal fucking clear for all to read, and the establishment is basically they're trying to pinball machine the citizens of this world into that spot, however they're able to pull that off. So, on that note, and with that qualifier, so if aliens suddenly do show up and we're all embroiled confronting shit that looks something like this up in the sky, or killer beach balls attacking ships, or crazy shit flying around in general, then yeah, okay, spoilers, yeah, if that happens, that's probably either a deep fake, videos made to appear as if they're reality, or Project Bluebeam, or one of many other black budget projects in the realm of alien-esque, secret-ass technology. All the top secret stuff that the government has been cooking up to then turn around and use to cook us. Wait, what? What the hell am I talking about? As far as we've been able to gather, the Nixon administration, it didn't really defund space. Instead, that funding went dark and snowballed into even more lavish pools of undisclosed back-budget bookkeeping. These innovative ovens of super advanced secret technology have been trickled out to the general public by the military in various different ways over the years. That's where GPS came from. That's where the internet came from. They started in military labs that successfully made the impossible possible secretly before it was available publicly. Remember the stealth bomber? aviation experts literally thought that that was impossible to exist until the day after it was declassified that it already existed. War is used as an excuse to create crazy shit and then experiment on the public with it. War is a test lab, and the many experimental spoils of war are only released to the public in little bits based on what the world's deep states allows us all to know exists. To illustrate what I mean, just look at the first atomic bombs. Those weren't ultimately dropped because it was necessary to win the war. I mean, Japan was already completely decimated at that point. Instead, those bombs were dropped as vicious crimes against humanity so that the entire world would know about the technology. And that the United States was actually sick and deranged enough to use it on civilians. It took that vicious demonstration to experience our most horrifying revelation as a species. We now had the power to destroy the entire planet. And when we learned about the existence of things as powerful as that, the shadows of those weapons lingered in our minds. They haunted our nightmares, chattered at our nerves. They showed up in metaphors as reflections of our deepest fears, and entire generations can be subtly conditioned to think in a narrow way as a result of these sorts of plagues of fear. The particular type of battlefield that emerged in people's minds in response to knowing about the atomic bomb, it became a Cold War. An infinite exponential arms race of mutually assured damage. A battle for hearts and minds, with everyone having nukes on their minds, And so with each passing war and each escalation of conflict along the way, the weapons of war that we use evolves, and the world evolves because of those weapons. So, because of how advanced classified technology of all unknown varieties is so closely guarded by the deep state, the past 50 or so years worth of major advancements, or for that matter, world-changing innovations from certain brilliant inventors, well, for the most part, the public still hasn't been shown the vast majority of that stuff. We don't have, any real idea what does or does not exist. Our conception of possible and impossible is itself tightly controlled and regulated. Remember how entertainment is not only a way to entertain, but it's also a way to entrain? The lore of aliens has been with our species for as long as we've been around. The breadcrumb trails of our entwinement with the cosmos is everywhere to be found. And so the themes and events depicted with any movie, book, or story can be easily co-opted and played with in the minds of the public psyche. Entertainment entrains us to view reality through the lenses of formulaic templates. So the idea of templates are like generic scaffolding for similar character types that we've observed over and over again throughout our lives. Like, if you've seen one stormtrooper, you've seen every stormtrooper. That's a template of something. It immediately communicates a simple framework of understanding for basic characteristics. Now, returning to the contemporary state of societal templates as simmering crock pits of, ingredients, the CIA is deliberately building a predictive programming basic ET template. You see, the CIA has been working to sprinkle little extraterrestrial propaganda bits as predictive programming campaigns going back for a long time now. And additionally, the Fox philanthropic, real-life full-on rapist Rockefeller family has also funded similar campaigns to study public opinion by using aliens in this way. These mannequins for the mind can be used to wear or show off certain ideas and ways of behaving. War is in the mind as much, if not more, than it is on the battlefield. And if you paralyze your opponent with fear or confusion, they lack the ability to think clearly, and they sink into themselves, retreating from the battlefield. These sorts of wild and crazy mental maneuvers with the public's perspective are what's called a psyop. A psychological operation is designed to bring the minds of men to our very threshold so that we as people can then be molded back into place in a very different frame of mind than we were before. The raw shock or trauma of our mental destruction allows for the catharsis of our societal recreation. Basically, sort of like bending and breaking how and what people know to be true so that a certain class of people can then redefine everyone's truth. That's not what people think the CIA does, like people think the CIA exists to keep America safe or whatever, but it's actually really funny that that's what we believe, because the truth is that the CIA was actually created by Wall Street lawyers to keep what was in their safes safe. The creation of the organization was more about continuing legacies that existed long ago. I mean, I wish I were kidding about how modern warfare is evolving, but stupid shit like all of this stuff I'm describing is actually very real. Plans to kill and murder innocent people to create real wars are not only commonly drafted in deep states, they are regularly implemented. The whole idea of how we think about spies, it's just a deeply seated ruse so that they can get away with all kinds of things, Plus, in addition to all of this super sophisticated manipulation and devious planning, there's also the simple and irrefutable fact that people can be kind of dumb, and we're pretty damn easy to fool too. So if a bunch of crazy shit shows up that looks even remotely alien, then yeah, whatever it is, it'll work. Like a convincing enough piñata in the sky, that alone might be enough to do the trick. If you throw tortillas, really quickly, like frisbees, and then shoot them with laser pointers, yeah, that could work. Throw fireworks in and stuff, some explosions and shit, that'll definitely work. Not only are we kind of dumb, our technology is now so sophisticated that it can completely fool everyone. We can beam 4K resolution holograms into 3D spaces. I mean, there are holograms we can feel, for fuck's sakes. And that's why war has evolved to look less and less like it once did, and more like something we never suspected. Which sounds completely crazy, right? But you have to remember, I don't know which psyops specifically or which plays on reality, propaganda campaigns, or tools designed to mess with our brains will or will not be used to drive us all insane. I do not know for certain the full range of what's going on behind all those top secret curtains. I don't know. I'm just saying this is but one well-documented example of a vast repertoire of various psychological armaments all fit into the same file. Doesn't matter if aliens suddenly show up. That's not the point I'm making. I'm saying that our technology and the infrastructure that supports that technology is so immensely powerful right now. That alone says enough about the very alien nature of these various organizations, systems, and groups of people that we allow to exist on this planet. The way in which we treat humanity, it's as if we're the alien species. The concept of hostile aliens is a cultural milieu. It overlaps with our fear of immigrants or illegal aliens from other countries. The idea plays on our deep-seated fears of the unknown, the unexplored, and how foreign ideas might threaten our tightly guarded traditions, our tightly guarded superstitions. And this very hostile alien way in which we are preyed upon by our own governments that see the people of this world as the enemy of everybody. This is just one example of the many grotesque shenanigans that Deep State builds all around us, all the time. What's another example, you ask, of like modern technology so powerful that it has the ability to hijack the human psyche when combined with false propaganda narratives? How about weather modification? Does that exist? A lot of people immediately say no, but when you actually look into it, you see that it already happens openly, like using drones to create rain in Dubai, secret schemes to churn out clouds in China, a former CIA director talking about weather modification being real at the podium of the CFR, official offices of weather modification being registered all over America, abnormal destruction of strategic resources abroad, like suggesting that maybe, I don't know, weather warfare could be very real. And not least of all, eerily reminiscent visible signs of military experimentation with similar technologies going back to Vietnam. The whole stratospheric aerosol injection thing. So, yeah, controlling and at the very least, to some degree manipulating the weather is much more prevalent and complex than people previously realized. People don't think it's possible to control the weather at all, and yet modern technology suggests otherwise. And that's just the stuff that's out in the open, Okay. Okay. So that's all curious and everything, but what else is this intergenerational, intranational cabal of deep state criminals all cooking up to use against us, And how have they gone about preparing us, the general public, to grapple with their secret plans to do with the world as they wilt? Well, there's the idea of the internet kill switch, or some sort of like ability to suddenly disable grids and power lines all across the globe. Fire sales, that kind of thing. And one actual war game exercise of just that sort of scenario is called Cyber Polygon, the idea of digital systems being taken out by malicious hackers. Or how about how we the people have been conditioned to think of AI, and the many different ways in which the theme of integrating digital systems into the physical body has reared its head in public consciousness over time. Almost like a certain ideology of technocracy and transhumanism has been preparing us for something they're planning for our future. They make it look amazing, and yet the reality is very different tasting. Okay, continuing with the whole list of crazy shit that's going on that we don't really realize is there, pick any one of the different biosecurity state scenarios that eerily parallel what we've observed play out in real life. Is that gain of function research? And for that matter, is the experimental injection a continuation of gain of function, spiraling from one effect to another? I wonder. Now, all of these various different elaborate ways of killing people can seem kind of insane until you remember that the Pentagon even has a contingency plan if there's a literal zombie apocalypse. Seriously, they do. It is these guys' job to be prepared for every scenario, real or fake, likely or not, peanut butter and jelly included. It doesn't matter what ingredients you give them. It is their job to already have a recipe prepared to kill something with it. It's like Jason Bourne killing a dude with a book. It's like that's what these guys are like. And during all of this like plotting and planning to mess with the minds of the world's population, they are also simultaneously monitoring the public opinion so that they'll have a pretty good idea about whatever our reaction will be to whatever bullshit they ultimately decide to unleash. So it's really important to understand that the globalist military-industrial complex very much does plan decades and even centuries in advance. They practice tricks, and then they see what works most effectively to control all of us. We're guinea pigs. And at no point are we ever not being watched or studied in preparation for the next big evolution of war. This is why former head of the CIA, David Petraeus, is quoted as saying, "We'll spy on you through your dishwasher." Our modern infrastructure itself, that is the secret future weapon that we're all unaware of. That's what the future of warfare looks like. Okay. So they're spying on us through our dishwashers? So the future of warfare looks like what? An IKEA catalog? Like we won't know if we're purchasing a new Fliepin' Floopin' or like a grenade without a pin? Really? Kinda. I wouldn't worry about furniture murdering us just yet. Maybe. I don't know where, like, the military's planning to go with, like, toasters and avocados in the future. It could be a total bloodbath just trying to make a sandwich, Desk lamps are definitely shady, though. You gotta look out for those little fuckers. But, yeah, I don't think we're at the point of inanimate objects like revolting Toy Story style just yet. Instead, it's the digital infrastructure increasingly surrounding us everywhere that is the key to the evolution of omnipresent, subtle, micromanaged, invisible warfare. Our modern way of living, it simultaneously acts as both a control grid that monitors and records everything we do in real time, and it acts as something that can be sabotaged to hijack or attack society in countless ways. In part, this whole whirlwind of interconnectivity overlaps and intertwines with the PRISM program that Snowden blew the whistle on, the way in which the NSA spies on everybody and records everything about all of us. But even the PRISM program was itself preceded by programs that the whistle was blown on by whistleblowers who weren't necessarily treated as well as Snowden was. This is the linchpin crux of what's called the Internet of Things, which itself overlaps with smart grids all packaged together to look futuristic and super sexy in prisons for humanity called smart cities. Oh, smart cities for people who are like really, really clueless. The point is, all of this isn't something new, and these various systems are not separate from one another. They are instead an immensely sophisticated, interconnected grid of ideas that have been carefully crafted in secret to then slowly assemble all around the public. That's how these secret technologies, programs, and systems of interference and interaction are introduced to us once they come out of the lab. The military knows what's really there and what they're really capable of doing with all those pieces if they want to. But people, citizens out in the world, we don't have a clue. Okay, so, like, everything and its dog is being spied on, recorded, monitored, observed, experimented with, weaponized, and then thrown into the funnel of the intelligence apparatus' evil brain simulation thingy or whatever, so that they can refine their own ability to rule the world. Is that about right? Seriously? Like, this is what's actually going on right now? Yeah, it is. It's kind of like outsmarting what war used to look like and making it more efficient, economical, stealthy, and versatile in the modern day and age. It's a digital systems battle royale combined with fifth generational warfare. Cumulative models of attack and social manipulation so sophisticated that they would have been impossible just a decade ago. And moving forward from that concept, it actually gets even weirder than the idea of our kitchens being spies and our very way of life being weaponized. It's like, what are those, like, movies where all of the villains show up at once and you can't even fucking track, like, what's going on anymore, That's what this secret technology geopolitical rumble is starting to look like in real life. So, yeah, bearing all that in mind, next up on the list of all the stuff that's fucked up, let's glimpse just a little bit further into the future of warfare. Smart dust is a substance so fine it connects to everything without us knowing that it's even there. Nanobot data collectors designed to register the full molecular structure of every single speck on this planet. literally creating a digital copy of the globe, a one-to-one rendering of everything. The digital version, it's being created to hack and control the physical version. 100% complete control of everything on this planet, including your thoughts. That's the end game. And with the growing sophistication of nanotech combined with the looming prospect of quantum computing, the question isn't when or how or if these sorts of invasive technologies will be deployed in some way, but how much has the public already been experimented on in order to move us in that direction? I don't definitively know the answer to that question. That's the point I'm making. We don't know how these various different sorts of technology have been or will be used to continue to move us forward as we're experimented on by our own fucking militaries, or for that matter, what sorts of adverse health reactions might we as a species begin to see more and more in response to all these various immersive military technologies that surround us or have found their way inside us? It's almost like simple narratives that we all see on TV, those have the power to be smokescreens for more sophisticated, interconnected, multifaceted realities. Simple narratives have the power to occult or hide modern warfare techniques so that we don't understand that the battlefield itself has changed. You see, advanced warfare, it's synonymous with immensely sophisticated, interconnected systems designed to watch and influence us, feeding us ideas, all the while to control us. A terrifying panopticon that looks like a Frankenstein unicorn. Economic warfare, biological warfare, psychological warfare, conventional warfare. You got your social engineering, militia management, terror inc., sex trade honeypots, drug-addicted, mind-controlled population, centralized bankers churning the wheels of disaster capitalism, hedge funds clear-cutting the world, and secret technology paved over by simple stories on TV. All stitched together into one gnarly ass monster. So, yeah, these few examples kind of give you a brief glimpse of how crazy shit gets when you look into population control infused with the evolution of war. Our ideas about weaponry, our understanding of what the battlefield looks like, the very way in which we live our own lives, that's all a part of a vast social experiment stretching on for hundreds of years that we have yet to fully understand, excavate, or reveal. It's basically like that scene at the end of Indiana Jones where, like, the Ark of the Covenant or whatever, like, which was the most powerful thing in existence, and it, like, melted people's faces off and stuff. That thing was stuffed into a generic crate in a warehouse full of other crazy, unimaginable shit, and then it was just left there to, like, rot as if it didn't even matter, you know? That's what all this stupid secret technology shit's like in real life. So, because of all of this, realistically, to gamify and incentivize a legit global revolution where we don't treat our own species like hostile aliens anymore, to do that, the first step is entering the rabbit hole to understand the situation we're actually in. Glimpsing what's outside of the establishment's narrow dialectic and their phony left-right paradigm so that we can all begin to open our minds and ask critical questions. The second step to freeing our minds is understanding that our fears, our own conspiracy theories about which psyops will or will not come true, those are the establishment's weapons now. Our thoughts, our feelings, our views, our actions, our genuine understanding, or our genuine ignorance. Meanwhile, all those people who remain vehemently dedicated to living inside the matrix and expanding the establishment's box, the blue-pilled people who refuse to simply glimpse or understand what these deep state realities look like as war evolves into a creepy, weird era, well, eventually those people will be weaponized in some way to serve the societal machines they exist inside of, with or without their own informed consent. In one way or another, that's how this whole thing has been built. The gears of war are everywhere now. Why? Because civilians and entire populations will need to be targeted someday, so why not target everyone in advance? Therefore, Agent Rabbit, your mission, should you choose to accept it, isn't simply to free your own mind and escape to like a tropical island or some shit. Nope. That won't work. Like, we can't run from these problems. We can't hide. There's nowhere to run if a machine dragnet has been designed to include, with or without public consent and, like, conscious awareness of, every single speck of matter being tracked on this earth. That's the very real system of track trace database that's being built to assimilate the entire world, almost turning us into kind of like a Borg-esque sort of version of what humanity once was, you know? And so our mission moving forward as people who don't want to see that happen to unsuspecting friends and family, it's bigger than just freeing our own minds. Instead, we need an all-for-one, one-for-all attitude moving forward into a new age French Revolution of secret technology disclosure. We need the townsfolk of this world who know nothing about the sinister nature of war to somehow understand just how much more complex, invasive, illegal, immoral, utterly insane, and just fucking weird. That, like, oh, contemporary warfare is really weird, man. And we need people to understand that. And so, on the next episode of Conspiracy Synergy, we'll begin to explore the emotional side of what it takes to face these uncomfortable studies and these approaching tides as we set sail and attempt to explore these subjects within the clouded minds of our normie families. As always, my name is Tease, Teacher of Peace. It's a pleasure to be on this rock with y'all, and I cannot wait to see how we manage to change it for the better together. Till next time, this has been another episode of Conspiracy Synergy. Keep